All right, could the candidates take their seats, please? Just start. Okay, hello everybody. My name is Victoria Turner. I'm with the League of Women Voters of Metro St. Louis. How's the sound? Can you all hear me at the back? Too loud, too soft? Good. You can probably tell I'm getting over a cold here, so I may come over a little bit squeaky at times. I'll do my best. And I have a big old bucket here of throat lozenges, so I'm not snacking on candy here. It's medicinal. I'd like to thank the candidates for participating and the Ladue School District for sponsoring the forum. You will elect 3 of these candidates to serve on the Ladue School District Board of Education in the election on April 7th. The candidates have all been provided with the ground rules ahead of time, so you're all good, right? I'm going to run through it for the audience real quick, just so you can tell what's going on here. First thing to remember, this is a forum. It's not a debate. It's the candidate's opportunity to tell you their positions. It is not an opportunity to bash other people's, so you'll all behave, right? All the candidates will be given the opportunity to answer every question. Now, I will ask you, please keep your applause till the end, because that way, with fewer interruptions, we can get more questions in. And if you could keep the background conversations and comments to a minimum, since we are live streaming, you might find it gets picked up and broadcast. So candidates will each have 2 minutes for opening statements. At the end, they will have 2 minutes for closing statements. And when we're asking the questions, each answer will take 1 minute. Now, our timer here, Fran, she has this paddle, if you would wave it, 2-sided paddle. She will show them the yellow side when they have 30 seconds left to speak. And the red means your time is up. Now, we'll let you finish your sentence, but please keep it a short sentence. We had questions submitted online. We also have volunteers who I don't see right now. Julie, where are our card ladies? When you came in, I hope you were offered a little index card and a pencil. If you want to submit a question tonight in the room, just wave your hand. There's one in front of you here. Fill it out, give it to one of these ladies, and they'll run it up to me here. We did have quite a lot of questions. I could tell from what was submitted online what the key areas of interest were, so I have combined a few questions or edited for length, etc. So if you hear something that sounds very similar to your question but not quite, that's because I combined it with someone else's to make sure we could cover everything. Now, we probably won't have time for all the questions, but if you have a question that we didn't get to, I'm sure the candidates would be happy to answer it for you privately. Now, the candidates are seated in the order they will appear on the ballot. Top of the ballot is closest to me, and so on down. For opening statements, we will go in ballot order. At the end, for closing, we will go in reverse ballot order. And for the questions, I'll rotate so it's not always the same person going first. And this is the hardest thing for me about moderating these forums, is keeping track of who's supposed to go first, next. So please forgive me if I get lost. I have a very sophisticated paperclip method here to try and remind myself, but that is tricky sometimes. So let me introduce the candidates. We have first Tim Rebele, Keisha Lee, Pablo Flynn, and Peter Garapi. We can give them a round of applause here at the beginning. Okay, so we will start with opening statements, and we will go to you first, Mr. Rebele, and then on down the line. 2 minutes each.
Well, again, thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for being here, Keisha, Pablo, and Peter. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everybody tonight. So the reason why I'm running for the Ladue School Board is paramount. There's three things: continuing academic excellence, safety and security, and engaged with the community, community engagement. In my background, I've served the community and the nation for over 30 years, locally and obviously at the national level. I worked for the Ladue School District as the safety coordinator for over 2 years, which also allowed me to have develop relationships with a lot of the administrators, staff, students, and parents. So I'm excited for the opportunity to help not only keep the kids safe, but the academic excellence that we so luckily have here in Ladue, continue that academic excellence and leverage certain things such as technology to provide to the students as they go out into society to become productive citizens to society. And most importantly, the reason why you guys are here, hearing what you guys have to say, what you want as members and parents and residents of the Ladue School District, because without the residents of the Ladue School District, we wouldn't be as strong as we are over the years. So with that, I'll cede my time.
Good evening. My name is Keisha Lee, and I am running for re-election. I am a three-term incumbent and served this district for the last 9 years as a member of the Board of Education. I currently am the senior member of the Board of Education and hold deep institutional knowledge, steady leadership, and a clear understanding of what it takes to govern responsibly. During my 9 years on the board, I currently serve as treasurer. I am the immediate past president and the first Black woman ever to be elected as board president by my peers. I serve on several board advisory committees, including curriculum instruction, finance and facilities, the Ladue Education Foundation, as well as the high school student advisory committee, where student voice has paramount to us. I also am school liaison to the LECC currently and have served at every building that we have as a liaison during my tenure. My leadership extends beyond Ladue. I currently serve as the chair of the Governing Council for Special School District, as well have been part of the last 2 public review committees. I also am honored to be elected by my peers across the state as the president-elect of the Missouri School Board Association. Prior to that, I served as the advocacy chair on the Regional Executive Committee for Region 7, which covers St. Louis County. And I currently also serve in the city of Olivet. I currently am on the Olivet Housing Authority and previously served on the Parks and Recreation Committee. My most important accomplishment is I'm the mother of Kimon and Raven, and I have lived the parent experience in this district and will keep our children and students at the center of every decision, and I consider it a pleasure to serve. Thank you.
Good evening all. My name is Pablo Flynn, and I currently serve on the school board along with Peter and Keisha. I will share with you that my tenure in the field of education, which is nearly 30 years, has been to be of service to all students. Students who don't look like me, love like me, pray like me, or have any of the identities I share. That being said, my responsibility on the board is to ensure that all students who don't look like me, love like me, pray like me, have an equal access and an opportunity to be successful in this school district. This is the end of my first term. Previously, I've served on the City Council in Olivet. I've served on a school board in the school district of University City. I wake up in the morning intending to be of service to those around me. It's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure to be in this district. I served as an associate principal here at Ladue Horton Watkins for 5 years. I've been a district resident and a member of this community for over 20 years. I sit before you asking for your vote, looking to be of service with you, not for you, but with you, as we look to ensure that what our students have today, the access, the opportunities of what our kids and our grandkids have tomorrow. We've built beautiful facilities. We have phenomenal teachers. But we all know our greatest asset are the students and the families of this district, and together we'll continue to do much more.
Good evening. My name is Peter Garapi, and first off, I just want to say thank you to our moderator, the League of Women Voters, the students who are here, the people who work in the district who have spent probably more time they would care to for this day, but they have chosen to be here this evening, and all of the families, all of the community members. I'm running for re-election to continue being a respectful, well-informed squeaky wheel on the board. That's perhaps the best way I can explain it. When I first joined the board 3 years ago, I think like so many, I didn't understand. This is a really unique group. All four of us have had a lot of time in the district, understand what the board does. So you guys really do have kind of an embarrassment of riches when it does come to, I'm not trying to, present company, but really, you really do. Because so many school board members think, well, I'm running and I'm going to change this. What we really do, the most important thing we can do is communicate with the superintendent to have a good functional relationship. We are one of 7. That is what every board member is. And so it's not just how, whatever your ideas may be, but how can you communicate them? How can you build those relationships with your board members? This is not an easy time for public education. And with pressure on curriculum, financial pressure from moving taxpayer funds to vouchers, pressure on property taxes, virtually no support from the federal government or the state government with what we get in Ladue, it's scary. However, for us, it's an opportunity. This is a window because we are a district of resources, not just financial, but look across this room. This is a Monday night, and this is the turnout for a school board election forum. And so we really are a district where if it can be done anywhere, if public education, not only in our state, but in this country can show what an example can truly be, you're in it. And so that's why I'm running, because this is that opportunity, and I'm so fortunate to live in this district and to really to be here with you. So thank you, Victoria.
I think he muted me. So I have been asked to remind the candidates, when you're not speaking, if you could turn your mic off, then we won't get that feedback. So we'll move on to the questions, and we'll start with you, Ms. Lee, and go down the line. Mr. Rebele, you'll be the 4th. What are some things that our school district does really well?
Okay, thank you. Some of the things that our school district does well is we make sure that our students have all the resources they need to be excellent. We make sure as a Board of Education, as you sit in this room, that we invest in student excellence and student education. We make sure that we have made all of our buildings future ready. We have improved the safety and security of our buildings by increasing the vestibules to make sure that people can't just walk into our school buildings. We make sure that we support students and listen to student voice. And we also make sure that we make policies and are at the tables at legislative conversations at the state and local level to make sure that we have the funding to continue to support our students, our teachers, and ensure that the community of Ladue School District remains strong.
Mr. Flynn.
Thank you for the question. What we don't do as a district is sit on our laurels. We sit and think about the successes of our students, the incredible staff we have, as Keisha alluded to, the buildings we have now. It would be easy to say, look, we've made it, we've done it. But this is a district that doesn't do that. As constituents, we ask, what else can we be doing better? How do we make sure every student in this district is learning at the highest levels they can, with the greatest opportunity for post-secondary excellence and opportunity? We do this with intentionality. We don't sit on our laurels. We say, what's next? This is a district that nearly 20 years ago didn't think data was as important as it is every single day, the determinations that teachers make, that administrators make, and the students make to guide their next steps. We're a district of growth and opportunity, not one of static.
All righty. I think we're perhaps what makes us, would you mind repeating, was it great, special, whatever the adjective was, high achieving? It's the buy-in. It's the fact that across the community, everyone is in, even those people who may go to a different school, they are still aware of the district's success. And where it really shines to me, it's not only in this building, because this is where everyone comes together. It's where is our district separated? It's at the elementary school level. We have 4 elementary schools. Other than that, everyone's together. And I find it always amazing. Every family in an elementary school feels they hit the lottery. An Old Bonham family wouldn't trade it for the world. A Reed family like mine, likewise. Same with Spady, same with Conway. And so then when everyone comes together, you have that same sense of community and identity that has already been built and is already there, but now it's all together as one. And so it really is an amazing thing that has taken place and that has been built by previous leadership in this district.
There is growing research supporting later start times for students, highlighting benefits to academics, mental health, and attendance. What are your views on the district's current start times?
I'm going to try to reduce the feedback. I appreciate the question. So I think I will share very frankly, the current start times are working for students. Current students are having the levels of success that we want them to have. I think we can always look and see what else can we be doing. I think the start times allow us, there's this component of transportation that we as a district have to embrace. We have tiered levels of bus transportation. And so I will tell you a component of how our start times work now allows students to be able to get to school without also an inefficient or undue addition to transportation costs. So I work well within the, I work well. I'm not getting up for school early, am I? Although I do as a school employee. Our start times are working well for students. I think we always have to have conversations on what else can we be doing, but I have been very comfortable with where the board landed several years ago with current start times.
So with the start times, I sympathize. We are, well, my daughter is ending her time at Reed. We will be on the earliest start time in the 5th grade center in a couple months. I heard this question a lot, especially when I ran the first time. And it's hard getting kids out of bed early, and especially when there is empirical data that shows that later start times could lead to more healthy teenagers, especially when they're in high school. Where we do have to balance this is looking at it holistically, because there is a facilities limitation with our bus facility, which we currently have a partnership with U City. It can only hold so many buses. If we need more buses to accommodate start times over 2 tiers rather than 3, we need to look at that. Also, you have to look at field practice times for extracurriculars, so that way kids aren't getting timed out and practicing in the dark. Now, we can invest more in facilities. However, it's not simply a start time question. There are a number of other ripple impacts that would accompany any change.
Yeah, this is a great question. As a parent of 3, as I mentioned, 2 years consecutively, my older 2 children were in the 5th grade center back to back. So if you're not aware, the 5th grade center starts rather early. I think my daughter and my son arrived at the bus stop about 06:50 a.m. For the bus ride to the 5th grade center at the FGC. But also, I have a different perspective as well, because I worked directly with Dr. Macy, my time with Ladue School District, and he was in charge of transportation. So I know a lot of the logistics on a daily basis, where he pulled all his hair out because of it. But the logistics involved with getting students to and from school. But more than anything, I would be happy to talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime, parents groups, people individually, about solutions, and that's what we do. That's what board members should do, is having that governance and that leadership to provide alternate solutions to the superintendent.
With regards to start times, when I first got on the Board of Education, that was the very first topic that I had the opportunity to take part in. There was a consortium of teachers, parents, community members, as well as staff, and we all reviewed all of the different options regarding start times. And we came up with what we have now. What we have now is what has been, so that we can make sure that students can get to school on time, as well as we're not impeding extracurricular activities, both academic and athletic. It's also, we've heard about the buses. There's many factors that go into that. And so we have landed where we are. We'll continue to learn and explore. We'll continue to look and see how we can improve as others go along. But if we are the only person that changes start times, it gives our students an unfair advantage in being able to participate in extracurricular activities, as well as the expense of going to 2 tiers.
Okay, Ms. Garpy, you'll be first for this next one.
All right, thank you.
What does equity and inclusion in education mean to you?
To me, it is looking at each student as an individual. And so obviously, first graders have a number of similar needs, and I think as people get older, not only students, those needs tend to further individualize. And so that's where and I believe the key is, it's really supporting those people who have that first line of contact with the students. It's the counselors, it's the nurses, it's the teachers, it's the in-building administrators. Because as those students become more and more individuals, which obviously, kindergartners are individuals too, but however, as your circumstances continue to change and continue to shape you, it's important that we meet them and treat them as the individuals they are, while making sure that they continue to progress and receive the support necessary, because it is healthy that you can continue to grow with your peers. You're part of a group, but you're still an individual. And so that's the most important focus, is that never forgetting that these kids are individuals as well.
Yeah, I would say that the biggest thing with the equity, inclusion, and education for the children is the opportunities, and the opportunities presented to them. But as I mentioned previously, each kid is beautiful and unique unto themselves, and we need to meet that child where they are. And Ladue does a great job of doing that with the smaller classroom sizes, some of the best staff on the planet that I was able to work with my time here. And I see how they do it behind the scenes, and having the help, like Peter said, with counselors, mental health. But the biggest thing is meeting the kids where they are, and individualizing the learning process for each kid even though you have roughly 4,300 kids that attend all schools within Ladue.
Yes, educational equity is near and dear to my heart. It is being able to meet the needs of each and every student based upon what they need, whether it's their abilities to learn, and maybe that includes special education. We work very closely with special school district and make sure that special school district teachers that work within our district are treated as the same as our teachers, and they're not separated. It's making sure that students feel seen in our buildings, making sure that they see themselves in curriculum, see themselves in the books that they have, as well as making sure that there's a sense of belonging. Everyone feels included in these buildings. We have the most diverse school population in the region, if not one in the state, and making sure that everyone has a place in Ladue. And that is something that I think we do well. We make sure that we try and meet students where they are, and make sure that we're matching all of their needs, whether it's through clubs, whether it's through academics, or whether it's just making sure that they feel seen as a student.
Thank you for the question. I think a big component of equity inclusion is reflecting on our adult practices. Sort of every child is an individual, absolutely, unequivocally. But we have to look, and I think the district as a whole looks and says, let's look at the data and the demographics. Are there demographic groups who aren't learning at the same levels as peers? And what is that? What we certainly don't believe is that any given population is less brain power, less skill set than somebody else. So part of equity is looking at the individual, but looking at the collective work of what we're doing, how teachers are presenting, how we're working with other groups. How do we make sure, as Keisha alluded to, all students feel seen, but equally, how we make sure our practices are equitable in what we're offering, how we make sure that what students receive is a reflection of the world as a whole and not a pocket of population and identity. We have to ensure students do several things: see themselves, understand others, and able to support those who don't look like them, love like them, pray like them.
Okay, Mr. Rebele, this will be you first this time. Had a lot of questions about money. With level to declining state and federal funding, the St. Louis County senior property tax freeze, and proposed state legislation that would reduce revenue to the Ladue schools, how do you plan to pay for competitive teacher salaries and programs that are essential to keeping Ladue as a high-performing district?
That's a great question. And earlier, I think about a month ago, there was a legislative forum right here in this very room, and every one of us was at that meeting. And again, having worked for Dr. Macy, who is still currently the CFO, kind of saw a lot, besides safety and security, saw a lot behind the scenes from a financial perspective of the district and how things are paid for. And as far as the property tax goes, you know, approximately 94% of the operating revenue is derived from local property taxes. So it's really important to have other sources. And, you know, having talked to Dr. Macy and Dr. Whipke and heard them speak at the legislative forum, a lot of how we're going to proceed forward as a board, we're charged, or as the board and hopefully a board member, we're charged to have the community help us in this process to educate you and not only, you know, use your feet and talk to our state legislators in Jeff City to make some changes potentially.
Yes, I think it's important that we have always, since I've been a member of this board, been fiscally responsible with the public dollars that have been entrusted to us. We make sure that we have always taken care of our teachers and staff to the best ability that we can. We want to make sure that we can retain the highest level of educators so that we can make sure that our children are getting the highest level of education possible. I think it is important that we follow the current legislation that is currently moving through the House and the Senate right now, even as today, and advocate for public education in ways that we have not before. We can no longer sit on our laurels and wait. Public education as a whole is currently under attack, and it's important that we're looking at all of the ways that we can maintain the funding that we have come to enjoy in this district so that we can maintain the level of programming and education for our students that we have enjoyed.
Again, thank you for the question. So when we look at finance, we know that things ebb and flow. And so we also have to make decisions in the moment that think about tomorrow, right? How do we make sure the teachers are well paid, that the educators in the collective whole, the classified and the certified staff, are paid well today to take care of families in needs, to ensure that they will remain with us, because we know that continuity in education is critical, right? If you're getting new teachers every other year, it creates a variance to the community of educators and the community of students. So I think there's that piece of creating that opportunity for equity by virtue of spending the money now and thinking about what that looks like tomorrow. I will also offer, as I think Keisha alluded to, we aren't in this alone. And though we may not be feeling the impact because we're 94% locally funded, the impact is clear in the region and in the state. And so we have to be willing partners with districts next to us, north of us, west of us, south of us, rural and as far west as the KC area, to say, how do we make sure that funding occurs for all staff and all students?
So yes, Tim's right. We are 94% locally funded. Keisha's right. I believe it's HB 266 that's seeking to lower the minimum Hancock levy from $275 per $100 of assessed value down to $220. We are a minimum Hancock district. We are at that state level minimum to still receive state support. We receive virtually no money from the state. We get $575 per student. We spend about $18,000 to $19,000 per student to educate them. And so we're not going to get it from the state. However, the senior tax freeze, it's legitimate. For seniors, we don't want them priced out in order to pay for schools, in order to pay for police, fire, and local roads. So where does that come in? If that levy is dropped, if that bill passes, it's a value proposition. The challenge is on us. We need to be able to go and say, yeah, fine, Nietzsche rates us as the top school district in the state of Missouri, number 14 in the country, but for you as a taxpayer, is that a sound return on investment? And so that burden is on us if we then need to ask taxpayers to raise that rate, which we don't want to do. I really want to make that last point.
You sure did. Okay, so we've heard your views on potential reductions in funding. Let's hear now how you think we should spend that funding. So starting with Ms. Lee, what are your top funding priorities for the district?
My top funding priorities are to continue to invest in top quality curriculum instruction for our students, to make sure that we're addressing all of our student needs. Secondly, I would say it is to finish out all of our facilities, to make sure that once we have our facilities in place and the last final touches on some of the fields and buildings that need to be put in place to help support students and our educators, then we need to also come up with a plan to maintain those facilities. I think it's important that we invest in our teachers. Teacher retention is important. If you're not aware, there is a national teacher shortage. We used to think it was a local teacher shortage, but there are teachers across the country that are leaving the field just like water running out of the faucet. And so I think it's important that we invest in our educators so that we can continue to invest in our children.
So I think as well, salaries is a critical component. How do we make sure that we are retaining quality educators? Recruiting is going to occur. Let me tell you what, your kids, the virtue of your kids and our kids recruit teachers. They want to be here. Staying here is about also making a living wage, more than that, being able to take care of your families. So salaries are a critical component. I would say facilities also encompass ensuring the safety of the babies you send to schools every day. So ensuring that we're looking at safety in all facets. And safety is both the hardware and the software. How do we make sure the students feel seen and heard? So I think professional development of our educators is another critical component of A, how we retain, B, how we effectively spend funds to make sure educators have what they need today to explore how to take care of kids tomorrow.
So in terms of spending that, I believe right now our operating budget's about 111 million. As that continues to grow, our biggest cost, I believe over 70%, is our personnel. That's money well invested. Your kid doesn't come home and say, my God, the LED lights, I can see everything. It's wonderful. No, it's my teacher's amazing. You'll never guess what we learned in school today. You'll never guess what we're going to do next week. That's the amazing part. That's where the investment is. We have made an investment in facilities. As Dr. Whipke has said numerous times, future-ready facilities, future-ready students. That's the most important thing. The world is changing faster than any of us can imagine. So everything we can do to make sure that when a kid walks across that graduation stage in May, they are ready for a world that is bigger and moving faster than we can understand, but that they are ready for. That we've done everything we can before they are out from under our wing. So wherever those investments are, and again, I don't know what those are right now because I don't know what they will be in the future, but that is money well spent.
Yeah, I would say 5 things, and I would like to mention I come from a family of educators. My mom, my 2 sisters, my sister-in-law, so they have over 100 years combined teaching experience in the state of Missouri. So with that said, the number 1 priority is making sure our teachers who do all the hard work and grade papers after hours and, work over summers, even though they should be having time off. So the teachers, then obviously something that's very near dear to my heart that I've dedicated my life to the last 30 years of my life, safety and security. Like Maslow hierarchy says, you need to meet basic physiological needs, safety and security before these kids could self-actualize, love, belong, and so on and so forth. So safety and security, then working with Dr. Crabtree with curriculum instruction, getting the best curriculum instruction and the best resources for the kids, and working with somebody like Mike Noonan who runs facilities. It may not be very sexy, but you need to replace those boilers and those AC units before they go out. So those are the 4 things.
Thank you. Lots of questions on school vouchers. So what is your philosophy on public versus private education in terms of private schools receiving state dollars for education? Mr. Flynn, you are first.
So I'll be very frank. My daughter attended private school, preschool through 5th grade. We paid that out of pocket. We did what we wanted, what we felt we needed to do at the time. As I had my son born, and these 2 amazing parents were looking at having 2 kids in private school, like, you know what, we need to move. We moved and we researched and we knew that Ladue was the place for our kids to grow and public education was the place to be. I didn't expect anybody to pay for private school. I expected to be able to look and say, what do my wife and I need to do for our children? And that was make a move. And so I will tell you, first and foremost, as a public school educator, the last 30 years, I believe public funds belong in traditional public schools. Traditional public schools. And we have to look and say, if schools are struggling, what can we collectively do to ensure all students have the opportunity to learn? I will say that the fiefdoms that we call school districts are arbitrary at best. So we are all collectively in this work together for traditional public schools.
So the narrative on vouchers, it's around choice. It's the idea that your default choice, presumably the school district in which you and your family live, is not an optimal choice. And so therefore, where else could you or should you go? The tricky thing is, for so many people across Missouri and in communities, even here in the St. Louis area, they don't have choice. So if you're in a disinvested community, is there an effective, well-invested private option that you can afford to go to? And I use the word afford because they are vouchers. They are coupons. It's a discount. It's not a full coverage. And so that's what's troubling. The second thing is those are taxpayer dollars. Taxpayer dollars should have accountability. And so if vouchers are not going to have the same kind of accountability around testing, around this new grading system that is being floated in Springfield, then how as a taxpayer am I supposed to feel that, now I know Ladue is audited every year, so is every school district, but those would not be. And they receive the same dollars that are coming to this school or that, for that matter, no longer are.
Yeah, out of the gates would be direct revenue drain where the state is already redirecting $51 million of taxpayer money into the general revenue fund, and that's going to expand with another $10 million potentially to that fund taken away from the public schools. And under Senate Bill 998, the state would be prohibited from requiring accreditation for participating private schools. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that need to be looked at. And as I mentioned earlier, that's where the community we need to wear our shoes out, go down to Jeff City, talk to your local legislators, and ask them, what is their intent of this bill for the vouchers. And then lastly, they're expanding the eligibility for those that can receive vouchers. And like Peter said, it's not full tuition. They may give you a voucher for, let's say $6,500, but then the private school raises tuition by $6,500. So it's a net neutral.
I think for me, it's very simple. Missouri's public money belongs in traditional public schools. And I think that we need to demand accountability for every dollar that is spent on public education. That is not the case with the voucher expansion and the bills that are currently rolling through the local legislature. I think that it's important to understand that choice is what is being sold, but choice is also being taken away with the expansion of vouchers in charter schools in the St. Louis and Kansas City region. They're not across the state. And I think that when you have a spot on the dress, I'm the only woman here, but when I have a spot on my dress, I don't throw the dress away. I try and work the spot out. So I think that we need to work to improve public education in districts that are struggling, but they're struggling financially because we've also taken away valuable resources in dollars in public funding that go to educate those students. So I think that when you take those resources away, you cannot hold them to the same level of accountability for those who have full. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Garapi, this will be you first. What is your opinion of House Bill 2933, which would allow school districts to withdraw from the special school district? What do you see as the key benefits, risks, and financial or service impacts of such a change for Ladue?
So for the wonderful thing that the special school district does is it distributes this. I am amazed at our special educators. And if we are very fortunate here to have teachers and administrators who have fostered and continue to steward a wonderfully productive and wholesome partnership. And it is that, because every single one of those kids, they are seen as a Ladue kid. Not every district has those same benefits. And those kids, if you're in a district where maybe the partnership's not as strong, or even the ability to provide services that you would like to is not as robust, those kids who are already facing challenges and their families could be further shortchanged. Special school district helps make sure those resources are available. Now, for those places where they feel that they could provide them better on their own, I mean, at the end of the day, I do support the autonomy of those families, particularly when they're doing what they believe is best for their children. However, I would want to make sure that special school district is not taken away or defunded as an option for those who need it.
I would say this goes back to one of the earlier questions about equity and inclusion. Providing the children the right to go to the school and providing the proper resources. And what I've talked about in the past too, or the past few questions, is the opportunity. Everybody, all kids should be given the same equal opportunity to learn. And not funding or pulling out from special school district would be problematic. And I had the opportunity to work with the special school district pretty closely at my time here at the Ladue School District. So again, kind of seeing the inner workings behind from the safety and security perspective, and getting to know some of their individuals that run the district, but also getting to know the people here in the Ladue School District that work with the children and that are part of the special school district. And I think the opportunity for everybody to learn equally across the board is the most important thing.
I would say during my time in serving on the Governing Council for a Special School District, as well as on the two public review committees, I have learned the inner workings of special school district very well. I think that House Bill 2933 is not in the best interest of students who receive services from special school district, and even for those who don't think that they receive services from special school district. Special school district provides career and technical education at North Tech and South Tech. high schools where students have the ability to invest in career and technical education. And I think that divesting from the whole does not give the full spectrum of services that students need. There are many specialized therapists and, speech pathologists and things that special school district has consolidated under one umbrella. And this is a uniqueness to the St. Louis County area that doesn't exist across anywhere in I think only a couple of other places across the country. So I think to divest from that and divest from those resources would be a mistake.
I appreciate the question. As a special educator by trade, I spent 9 years working in a separate private day school. That school in the late 90s cost about $35,000 per student. So I will offer to you that the cost to educate students who receive services through an IEP is exorbitant. It's not undue, it's appropriate, but it costs quite a bit in separate private spaces and our separate public spaces for our districts, that would be Litzinger and New Owner. The reality is if an entity attempts to leave, I would ask those parents to really look and say, can we afford to offer the parallel services of what special school district offers? The smallest districts of Hancock, the largest districts of Parkway, Riverview, Rockwood. It can't occur. I will offer it's imperative that we retain this thing that's unique in the county. It doesn't exist but one other place in the nation. It's an opportunity for us to support all. And that's what we do.
Thank you. Now, we had some great student-centered questions submitted. So I'm going to invite Addie Flintrop, who's a junior here, to come up and ask a few of those. Mr. Rebele, you will be the first to answer the first question here.
Hi, I just want to say a quick thank you to the League of Women Voters for extending this opportunity and to the board for hearing these questions. So the first question I have is that I've noticed that finding consistent coaching for extracurriculars, especially academic ones, has been a significant struggle for Ladue. Having spoken to teachers, it seems that this is in part due to lack of appropriate compensation. I wonder how the board plans to address this issue in the future.
Yeah, that's a great question. My glory days of being a high school athlete too, so that's very important to get the proper coaches. And not only the coaches for athletics, but there's still coaches I talk about that I keep in touch with that mentor me in life. So it is very important. And that's something we talked about earlier with the funding and getting creative with how to attract the best quality individuals, not only to be a teacher, but those coaches are teachers. They're teaching you life lessons out there on the playing field of whatever it may be. So it's very important. And I know, currently now with Dr. Whipke and Dr. Macy, they're both athletes in their past days. So those things are pretty important to get the right people in place to act as mentors. But it's also recruiting the right people and finding in the right places part of Ladue culture in general. I'm sorry, couldn't see it.
I know. Ms. Lee.
Yes, I think it's important. It's one of the topics that we have really been exploring and has come up several times about really reviewing teacher stipends. And making sure the stipends that are for academics match those that are for athletics. It is beyond just ensuring that athletics, coaches for athletic events and athletic sports are compensated fairly, but also those that are supporting our academics and our students that are in DECA or in oh gosh, I can't think of all the academic links, the Scholar Bowls, and all the things that we do at all the levels, even down to the middle school. But it's really making sure that we have stipends in place that can support them at the same level as they do the athletic coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've had that conversation. Where can we take funds that maybe aren't being used? Nothing's being poorly misused, let me not say that, but how do we make sure we add to the fund to give teachers who want to take their extra time to support students? Nobody was ever doing it for the money, but the fact is time is money, and the one thing we can't get back is time. So when we have teachers dedicated to wanting to spend more time to create the opportunities for their young ones, whether they're in second grade or whether they're 11th grade, then we have to figure out, we've had to look and figure out how can we create that compensation structure that's fair, that's appropriate, that's reasonable across all three levels as well, right? You want a sixth grade English teacher to feel like their time is well spent as it is for a 11th grade coach, right? We want to make sure there's a level of parity in that that honors the expertise, the experience, and the time committed. Nobody's getting dollar for dollar what they get somewhere else, but we want our teachers to get what they deserve.
So everything they said is valid and accurate. Where I want to go a little bit further is how fortunate we are to have our district's partnership. Working relationship is an understatement with the LEA. And so that is the teachers union here in Ladue. There's a meet and confer process that is always going on and that we recently concluded for the year, but now it's starting back up again to go over teacher benefits, teacher salary, and we trust them. And they are wonderful. They work very closely with our administrators to go through the stipend, to help make recommendations. And where I really appreciate it is so many teachers in this district, they have students in this district, their own kids. So they have that vested interest to make sure that we are investing in extracurriculars, because that is where so many bonds are built. And I think it really is a large portion of that character development that when you're going through not only through middle school and grade school, but also high school, a lot of those relationships you carry with you. And I couldn't agree more that coaches, they are mentors, just like teachers.
Another issue I've heard discussed among students is a lack of support when it comes to some real-world opportunities like seeking employment. Ladue has a lot of fantastic college counseling programs, but are there any plans for the board to work on initiatives to help students in other facets of their future, like seeking employment and finding careers directly after high school?
Yeah, I think that we have had several discussions about exploring the career and technical education of students post-graduation, and one of those includes the Catalyst program that we have, where students have the opportunity to shadow real-world professionals day-to-day for several days a week. They get to explore those different opportunities and those different professions that they may be interested in. I think that we can continue to do more. I think as a district, we have been really focused on the last probably 5 to 10 years on college, making sure that children are college ready. And as we're seeing now, many students are choosing not to go to college. Not to say that that's something that we decide, but I think that we give them all the alternatives and all of the options to make sure that they're able to make informed decisions.
I think what's occurred in the district is we've said, what do you want to do? Where do your skills and your interests meet? And that is no longer a 11th and 12th grade conversation. The district's asked students in 6th grade to think about, what are you good at? What do you want to do, right? We start exploring these ideas much earlier than waiting till high school. And so I'd offer, as Keisha alluded to as well, all students should go and excel at whatever they choose to do and are ready for when they leave us. And what does that look like? If I don't know, it's because nobody's asked me. I have an idea of what I want to do, so I need people to ask me and invite me into that conversation. Our college and career counselors do a phenomenal job of preparing students to think about how and where they're applying. I would offer it's the collective responsibility, and that's something I've watched our counselors take on, is to explore, what do you want to do when you finish high school? Because when you leave high school, you're going on literally to the rest of your life. And what does that look like in terms of post-secondary wants?
I love this question. Thank you. What sets, I think, high-achieving, renowned private schools apart from schools like ours, it's the activation and the organization of their alumni networks. Now, they need that because if you are a private school without a robust endowment, you're in big trouble, because then you have to consistently rely on tuition and you're not going to grow sustainably or over the long term like that. So you have got to build those relationships not only with your students who are future alumni, but also your existing alumni. We don't have that financial desperation. However, we have extremely successful alumni. And so that's where we should be activating our alumni. So if you're a student, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was a senior, even when I was in college. It was just time to choose a major. And so that's the difference. When you can look and say, oh my God, they were in the same halls I was. They were in the same clubs I was. And look at what that person's doing now. You can see their path. And when we have those relationships with them that connect to our students, that's where that big lifelong difference can really take place.
Yeah, I'd like to add that with my current role, with what I do for work now, I'm in thousands of schools covering 50 states. So there's a lot of different ideas that people are doing across the country that could be brought here to Ladue to solve this, or answer this question. And the biggest thing is, setting up our students to be productive citizens to society when they leave Ladue. And maybe a trade or something, maybe they don't want to go to college, giving them that, again, opportunity to learn what they want to be that productive, successful person to society. And kind of to touch on what Peter said, the area in which we live, the amount of successful business people and leaders across this globe, they're right here in our backyard. Why don't we utilize them to be mentors to kids at Ladue Horton Watkins High School as they matriculate through the school, so then they're set up for success the day they graduate, then move on to college?
So for my last question, I've noticed that right now not a ton of students participate in forums like this, and there seems to be some disconnect between the board and students. So what plans does the board have in the future to keep more in touch with students?
Mr. Flynn, you're first.
Thank you for the question. I think this is a twofold component. We also are a district of 4,400 families, and I'm sure there are families online, but many of us chose to show up tonight, and many didn't. So I think in terms of the student-centered piece, a part of our charge is to be present in buildings, right? To hear and to see and to be present in the joy that is learning, right? So part of our charge is to simply be present in buildings, whether it's events or whether it's pickup and drop off. And drop off is a little later than pickup, or pickup's a little later than drop off, which is nice. So part of our charge is to be present. And also, when we are in meetings, ask what students are sharing, right? We are always open to hear what students are sharing, so there may be some more opportunities for the board to be present individually to hear student concerns, because the reality is this current board always shares with each other what we hear from peers and students.
What do you guys think about mandatory attendance in order to graduate at board meetings? Yeah, see, no, I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing that Dr. Whipke has organized, the Student Advisory Committee. However, here at the high school, they have it at the middle school, it's a small group. And I don't know that it's completely representative of every angle and every concern within, certainly within the high school. And so that's where I think it's an opportunity, not only for the board, because when you guys are in school, many of us are at work. And so is that an opportunity where we should come during seminar? Or also to help understand the governance structure for our purpose, where we are there to really support and be the boss of the superintendent, who then oversees the building principals and so on. So it's important that you guys have that relationship to us, because we are the publicly elected ones and sort of part of the local governance structure. But also to know that for whatever change you want, you are going the most efficient route. If it's to us, terrific, but if it's to someone else, so that way you are reaching it.
Yeah, I would say, to follow up what Peter said, I know Dr. Whipke does a great job with the Student Advisory Board, and having more conversations with the superintendent. Hey, Dr. Whipke, well, what things, getting the pulse of the kids and what they want. But also, communication is key, and communication starts with trust. And you need to develop trust with a student for them to honestly tell you how they feel. And that starts with being in and around the schools and developing the relationship with the staff. So it's kind of a process. You just can't go right in and expect students to tell you how they feel. You have to develop that trust through communication, and it starts with getting to know the staff, talking to the superintendent, and again, it goes back to that community engagement. And let's remember, the children that go to these schools are part of the community too, so engaging with them to get the pulse of what their needs are.
I would say I think it also includes visibility. I try as a board member to be in attendance at as many student-centered events as I possibly can, as my personal schedule will allow. And I think it's important that you see us. I've also been part of the Student Advisory Committee for the high school since it started with Dr. Whipke. And I think being able to listen to what the students say and them to see action on what they have said and shared is very important. That's how you build that trust. And me personally, I would like to see a student board member on our board. I've been to several conferences, and several districts around our region have students representing the board, so that you, as a board member, can go back and then share with your peers. So I would like to continue to listen to students, engage you in what are your interests, and what do you see as problems or things that we need to solve for you. I think that is very important, that we listen to the students in our space, and then we act on what they tell us.
All right, thank you, Addie. I'm going to break my rule now. Let's give her a round of applause. She's going to take my job. Okay, Mr. Garapi, you're up first on this one. This is a question from a parent. As a parent, I have trouble making my concerns heard. The various PTAs, parent groups, and student committees meeting with administrators are not representative of all views. How would you make sure the district learns its strengths and weaknesses from all parents, not just those that the administrators regularly meet with?
That's an excellent question. And I'm aware that everyone does not have the same schedule, and so therefore not the same availability. Not everyone can be here tonight. Not everyone can be at when the parent associations are meeting. They may not always have the flexibility or the comfort of the relationship to meet with their building principal, or also an administrator, or feel like they have a relationship with a board member. And so that's where I think I do want to applaud Mrs. McKenzie and her communications team. I believe the district is always making efforts, whether through social media, whether through mail, whether through promoting events. However, to make sure that parents do feel comfortable, I think as the board, we just have to make sure that it is clear how to communicate with us, where we are going to be, and to encourage public comment. We rarely get any. Now, I'm certainly not chiding that fact, but how can we make people more comfortable to reach out? That it doesn't have to be some sort of official emergency to state your views or your preference.
I would like to add, it's not just the parents, but it's the community members. There's a lot of people in this room that may have never had a kid go to a Ladue school, or haven't had a kid go to a Ladue school in 15, 20 years. So it's not just the parents, it's every person in those 10 municipalities in the 19 square mile radius that encompass the Ladue School District. They have a voice that's just as important as a parent. This is not a parents association, this is a school board representing everybody within the district. So that's the first thing that's very important. I will say, creating groups. My time as the safety director with Ladue School District, I helped create a safety committee to get direct feedback. Did I always want to hear the feedback sometimes? No, but I need to hear the feedback, and that's the truth that makes me better than it made the district better. The last thing I'll say is, a lot of people, and I've met during this process, I've met a lot of people for coffee and meetings. Giving them their voice by allowing them to speak at board meetings is a very difficult thing to do as we speak.
I would just say I think our community is strong because of our schools, and our schools are strong because of our communities. I think that hearing the strengths and weaknesses of our parents and community members is something that we should probably hear more of. There is no one person's voice that's louder or has more weight than the next. All of us are accessible. All of the current board members and future board members are accessible via email. And I think sometimes it's important that people know that they can reach out. And I don't know that parents, and sometimes, you know, you're in your school your school, you know, parent associations, and that voice carries some weight, but sometimes if you feel like you're not being heard, reach out to the Board of Education. All of our emails are public. They're posted on the website. I think my cell phone number might even be on there too. You definitely have our addresses because we're public officials. So I would say reach out. Make sure that your voices and your concerns are heard. Your strengths and your weaknesses for our district can only make our district stronger. And so your voice matters.
Gave me a lot of time to think about the question, and to my colleagues offering, we can always be reached, and we're always more than willing to talk. And I will tell you that our charge isn't to make a decision or determination, but also guide you back to the school educators who can help impact, first of all, hear you, as we will, and look to see if there's a change or something that needs to be done. So calling us and emailing us can be a first step, but I will always redirect you back so we can find the solution back in the building, back where your child learns, whether it's the classroom, the building, the hallway, the cafeteria. So we can always be reached. Reach out to us if you don't feel like you're getting the support you need at the building level or at the classroom level. But I will offer, I'm going to redirect back to that space because that's where the real change occurs if a change needs to happen.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Would you mind just repeating the question?
There we go. As a parent, I have trouble making my concerns heard.
Thank you. I did answer that one. Yeah, thank you.
I told you I do get lost. I'm sorry.
No problem, no problem.
Okay. Next question. I would like to know how you will address rising levels of anti-Semitism in the schools.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I mentioned it earlier, and right there, you know, no place for hate. It's rather amazing. As I mentioned, my youngest daughter is a first grader at Reed Elementary, and what she's learning to be kind is amazing. So it starts at a young age and continues through, you know, all the way through when kids graduate. And going back to one of the previous questions, I would love to get feedback from the students, what they think about No Place for Hate and what could be done better. I know Jen Risme is in here too, and she's a big proponent and helped bring that to the district. So working together to educate the kids properly is paramount. Then also, again, I'll reference back my time as Ladue safety. I worked very closely with the Jewish Federation, you know, and Scott Biondo, and talking to him about what is the threat intelligence. That's the world I came from, you know, being a retired Secret Service agent. So knowing the threat intelligence, working with the kids to keep people safe.
Yeah, I would say just, you know, I think what is happening in our world outside of our school buildings is contributing to the level of rise in anti-Semitism, but it's also it's racism, it's sexism, it's all of the isms. And they really have no place in our buildings. They have, I think the No Place to Hate initiative, as Tim has stated, is one step in the right direction. But there's many more that we probably are going to have to take as we continue down this road and in this current climate within our country. And I think that we need to make sure that our students know that they are safe and that our communities are safe. Some recent changes to even the passport night to school were made to make sure that parents and families felt safe coming and going just because of the climate that we currently live in. So I think that we need to make sure that, again, every student feels like they belong, every community member, every family has a place, and there is no place for hate in Ladue.
Again, I show up as a passing cisgender heterosexual male, so I get all the privileges, right? I'm cognizant of that. So I offer that only in that we have to understand what identities we bring to any space, how we show up, how do we look out for people who don't look like us, love like us, pray like us. So I don't think there's a given component. It's homophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. It's all those components which often come out of a place of misunderstanding. And this is a space I'd offer from the K-12 space, and certainly during my tenure in the 9-12 space here, we have educators who want students not to think like they think, but to think about others and to learn about others. And that, I think, is how we collectively create a population of young people who will go forth to change what looks like negative in our spaces, inside and outside of Ladue.
So, anti-Semitism, and like we all went down the line with any ism, it's rooted in ignorance. It's rooted in thinking you know something when you don't know. And when you don't know, you then just simply hold on to your ill-informed opinion. And so that's where I come back to the investment in our students and those points of connection. So not only through No Place for Hate, not only through extracurricular clubs, through those relationships, through that really start in elementary school, where those friendships are far stronger than any sort of prejudice that could be picked up by an ill-advised comment or something they hear or see on TV, or someone who misguides a child, because no kid is born hateful. No kid is born with those opinions. Those are uninformed positions that are picked up. And then far too often, people with those positions say, well, yeah, I know someone, but they're not like that. That's completely unacceptable. And those behaviors are defeated through knowing people and through those relationships, and that's what we foster in this district.
Okay, to you next, Ms. Lee. Would you restrict access to books in response to parent objections?
During my tenure on the board, we have had this conversation, and this has come up when there was a push for several book bans. I think it was not just the Board of Education, but also our librarians that stepped up to the plate with regard to wanting to ban books. I think that there is education to be learned around some of the book bans, and I don't necessarily know that if it is mandated that we ban books, but I think it's also mandated that we educate our public and educate our parents on the positivity they can learn from learning and educating themselves on some of the things that people are saying need to be banned and not taught in schools. It kind of goes back to the previous question, when we have to learn how to learn and love each other in community. We are one community of a school district, and I think it's important that we all come together to be able to respect our differences and those challenges.
No, I appreciate the question. So no, I don't believe in book bans. In the late 80s, early 80s, I was a hip-hop aficionado. I loved hip-hop music, and my mom would hear this music like, Pablo, what are you listening to? And we'd have a conversation. I said, Mom, those classic, those operas you love, let's talk about what's going on in those operas, right? Which was far more egregious what was happening in my rap music, let's be clear. But the point was we had a conversation, understood, Pablo, you turn it down, yes ma'am. And on Sunday morning when she was blasting opera through the neighborhood, I said, well, she gets to do her piece too, but it was about conversations. So I think when a book ban comes up, it comes from that same place of worry, concern, fear. So it has to be open dialogue and conversation. Always remembering if somebody fears or has a worry, we have to hear that. Doesn't mean we'll make a determination about it, but we have to honor the voice.
So in those situations, have the hearing. Learn about the book. Have it publicly. I may be paraphrasing Justice Brandeis, but sunlight is the best disinfectant. Don't just tell the person, no, we're not going to, forget that, we'll just review it later. Do it like this. If the person says this book is terrible, this book is inappropriate, if you don't want your individual child reading the book, I understand that that is a concern you as a parent have. And let's make sure that your concerns are appropriately addressed, especially if it's part of the curriculum for their class. However, if it's simply something that's in the library and you say no kid should have access to this, let's have a conversation like this. Please tell us what the concern is. Let's discuss with our librarians why it was placed there, why there is value in it, and the perspective that it provides that maybe you're not aware of or you don't share. but certainly doesn't mean it should be eliminated. And so don't push it under the rug. Don't tell the person they're wrong. Have a conversation and have it in the open.
Yeah, to follow up what Peter said is what I've talked about numerous times now is that community engagement, hearing whatever individual out about what their concern is, pro or con, whatever you want to say, hear their voice, let them be heard. But also, we need to realize as a board, we're here for governance. So we need to ask the superintendent, hey, what can we do to assist you? And I know for a fact, I've been in these meetings with them where they defer to the district council, because there is, you know, a lot of case law now in the United States. You need to be compliant also to existing law of the United States of America. So you're not a case law down the road. So you need to take a lot of insight to what is going on to make the proper decision. And as a board, you're there to guide all parties involved for the whatever that decision is made for the greater good.
Okay, so we have time for one more question. But before I ask it, we did get quite a few questions submitted along the lines of, why should I vote for you? Why are you a good candidate? What in your personal experience has impacted your decision to run, et cetera? And I'm thinking you can probably roll that into your closing statement, which will come right after the last question. So I'm not going to ask those. So Mr. Flynn, the last question will go to you first. How do you define the role of music and arts education in driving student outcomes, academic performance, attendance, and long-term success? And how would you protect it if budgets tighten?
Can you give me the question again? I got the end and hear the beginning again, please.
Okay. How do you define the role of music and arts education in driving student outcomes, academic performance, attendance, and long-term success? And how would you protect it if budgets tighten?
Thank you for sharing again. So I think the arts are an incredibly important component of every child's pre-K-12 experience. I've always struggled when I've seen districts say, that's the thing we're removing. We can't. The arts are such an outlet, such an opportunity for academic excellence, for athletic growth. These things are not separate. They're in concert with each other. Concert, you see that? So I offer to you that there's no part of my time on the board that will look to reduce the arts programs we have, visual, performing, music. They're an intimate part of student success and value and the beauty. When you all are attending the concerts, you don't know how young these students are. So it's a component of how students grow, the mind expands, and so it's something we have to maintain unequivocally in the district.
So it was one of the founders, one of the co-founders of OpenAI, not local celebrity, Sam Altman, but it was a gentleman, and he characterized that in the growing age of AI, our role as humans, as organic beings, will be as directors of intent. When you have something that can do anything, can interpret any language, can solve any technical problem, what is your role? It's the questions you're asking it. What do you want it to do? What do you want to achieve with this amazing, competent tool that is simply a reflection of your intent? And so that's where the humanities, not only arts and music, which are cornerstones, I was going to say something else, but are core aspects of that. And so it is that empathy, that philosophy, that education, that what are the things that make us distinctly human? It's not just simply solving something that will, and it already is being done better. We need to understand what those can do, but as far as why we are doing what we're doing, so much of that does stem from the arts.
Yeah, I would follow up, and for a lot of the Reed parents in here, one of the greatest things that Reed does is Sarah Schwartz puts on a fourth grade play which combines the arts and the kids, and the entire school goes. It's one of the coolest things. If you've never been, I would implore you to go visit. But like with my own daughter, you could get creative with music and arts Every morning we sing the 50 Nifty United States. You know, you're learning history, but you're also singing and having a good time. I mean, just because you're in science doesn't mean you can't incorporate the arts with a project. And arts and music are paramount to, like Peter said, the creative side of us of being humans. And it gives you ideas to do other things. So I hope they never go away. Hopefully that wasn't part of the question, but we could get creative and incorporate them in all aspects of our life with whatever the subject may be. And I think Ladue School District's already doing a great job of it throughout the elementary schools especially.
Having two artists that have spent some time in my home, I think that the arts are paramount and totally important to the public education space. Being able to tap into that creativity side is, for some students, the only reason why they come to school. I think being able to continue to engage our students in music and art and explore how they can delve deeper for themselves. I mean, if you've never been to any of our students' performances, it's mind-blowing. Just last week, I was here almost trying to fight the ugly cry from our elementary students that serenaded us. So being able to tap into the arts is something that is it is what students are. I mean, no one in here is a monolith. Some students are artists. They will go on to do great things in the arts. Some will, I'm sure, one of our students will be on Broadway soon. Just because, you know, even at the performance of Legally Blonde, I always engage our students by getting their signatures on my program book to make sure that they know that how important their arts and their gifts are to the entire body of our district.
All right, time for closing statements. So you will have 2 minutes each, and we will start with you, Mr. Garabia, and come back up the line here. So
Okay.
you're up.
Tim, I had no idea. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona. We sing the same thing. So, serving on the Board of Education, it is a tremendous privilege. And like so many in this room, my wife and I did not accidentally end up in the Ladue School District. We made a conscious choice. Personally, this could not be more personal. With my children in the district and all of their friends and the impact that these critical years for not only mine, but every child, not only in the district now, but all of those proud alumni to come, where we need to strengthen the lifelong impact and the connection to the Ladue School District, that's the opportunity. Things are changing outside so much faster. It's our responsibility in here as the adults, as you future leaders right there, because if you guys are here on a Monday night, like, trust me, like, you're in good shape. That's what we need to do. We need to be able to navigate and prepare them for the unknown, because that's exactly what is coming. We don't know, and neither do they. So what can we do? What can we set up here while they are under our wing? And even when they are out, when they cross that graduation stage, they should still be a part of this community, still be a part of this family. We should be on you guys like we need your money, but we don't. So imagine if there was that level of attention, however, without that imperative, where we are providing that support, where you look and say on LinkedIn, oh my God, that person, that's the job I want. And they went to Ladue. They'll talk to me in a second. I'm gonna set up coffee next week. That's the connection. Those relationships that happen here, that start in kindergarten, go all the way through to when you walk across the stage at Chaffetz, and continue onwards. That is what we need to build, what we need to sustain, what we need to dedicate ourselves for, where we are the directors of intent. That is where we need to go for our children.
Yeah, I'd follow. Oh, sorry.
So it's been a joy to share with the 6 colleagues I currently serve with to be present. I ran initially as a 30-year educator, 27-year educator at the time, wanted to ensure that students receive the access, the excellence that they deserved from pre-K through 12. I would offer that I have a lens as an educator, as a school administrator in this district. It's allowed me an eye to ensure that we continue to make good choices for kids, make good choices for the staff, both classified and certified, that make sure this district runs. I currently serve as a district director of facilities for a neighboring district, and I will tell you, our role is to make sure that every single human being in this district is seen. The custodians, the HVAC folks, the plumbers, the TAs, our security staff, our teachers, our administrators. Why? So they feel that much more encouraged to support the students that we send to them every single day. I show up to be of service. I do that outside of this role. I do it inside of this role for one reason. It's what is expected of me. I don't get anything from it but the idea and the knowledge that I'm being of service. That's why I was put here, period. I will continue to show up to be of service to your students, to be of service to your colleagues, to be of service to you. I will listen, I will honor your voice, and I will say that this group here will bring the conversation to each other. Nothing occurs in isolation on this current board. We're willing to lean on each other, listen to each other, have tough conversations with each other, and I will continue to be part of that. There's a lesser well-known philosopher named Alonzo Harris, and Alonzo Harris said, we are in a privileged place to learn a thing or two. I will offer that I show up in a privileged place to learn a thing or two.
I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and thank all of you for being here tonight. If reelected to continue my service on the Board of Education, I will bring to every role a deep belief in public education. I believe that public education is paramount to what makes our community great. And like I said before, we have a strong community because we have strong schools. Most people moved into this community because of its schools. And our community will continue to be strong as long as we continue to invest in those who provide education to our students. My priorities are continue to maintain fiscal responsibility. I will continue to make sure that we ask the hard questions before we spend public dollars. I will continue to make sure that we're listening intently for student voice in the decisions that we make, and that we're looking to our students to help guide us into the future. I think that we will continue to exceed in academic excellence and to celebrate the equity that exists here within our school district. We did not come here by mistake. This didn't just happen. But we have the greatest amount of diversity and the greatest amount of excellence in our students and in our community. You all wouldn't be here tonight if we did not. And we continue to come together to support our students, to support our educators, and to support our communities. I will continue to work to make sure that we have strong and safe schools, that we increase the safety protocols and make sure that we're continuing to review those things on a continuous basis to make sure that our students remain safe. We know that public education and school shootings are at a rate that we have never thought that we would see, but we will continue to work hard to make sure that our schools stay safe. I have created the hashtag We Are Ladue because we are Ladue. And each and every person in here, whether you're black, white, Christian, Catholic, Jewish, whatever we are, all of the different things that we bring us together as community is who we are, and we are Ladue. And so I would just ask for your vote on April 7th. Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for being here on a Monday night, and I'll say it at the beginning. It would be an honor, an absolute honor to have your vote on April 7th. And for me, as I mentioned, I come from a family of educators of over 100 years in the state of Missouri teaching, but also it's in my DNA. I chose at a young age, I started my career in law enforcement as a St. Louis County police officer serving my community. Then I became a U.S. Secret Service agent serving my country. It's in my DNA. Then when I retired, nobody tells you how to retire, and I had a conversation with my wife, and she said, Tim, all you've ever done is served others and had a mission. What greater mission than protecting our national treasure, which is the 52 million kids K through 12 in this country? And she was right. One of the greatest experiences I've had in my life was working here at the Ladue School District. Now I have a platform on a national level to help kids in all 50 states, thousands of kids, to keep them safe. That is in my DNA. And not only being on the National Council of School Safety Directors, like Pablo, I love giving back. I teach Sunday school. I can't get enough of just giving back. And those same kids I see on Sunday, they go to school here. So having that connection, serving the community, and giving back, I don't know any other way. It's my way of life of giving back and being connected to the community and doing what I can to help to leave this place when I'm gone better than it was when I got here. And that could only be done, like I mentioned, through the community. I'm just one person, but together, Ladue strong, we come together, we could do anything. So that's what excites me. All the people here on Monday night, all the people are going to go out and vote, and I'm excited for what the future has in store for what we could do together.
Thank you. Let's have a round of applause for our candidates. So I'd like to thank, excuse me, our candidates, thank the Ladue School District for sponsoring this forum, and thank you, the audience in the room and online, for participating. And thank you also to the volunteers from the League of Women Voters for collecting cards and timing and all that good stuff. We believe that the best way for voters to learn about the candidates who are running for office is to have forums such as these. So if you agree, if you found it useful, please consider joining the League of Women Voters, or we're always happy to take a donation to help us do what we do. I would imagine, we've been doing this for many, many years, but I imagine you're familiar with our voters guide that went out last week, maybe 2 weeks now, time's getting away from me, in the Post-Dispatch, and it's also available online at vote411.org. And that's how you can learn about the other races on your ballot on April 7th. No excuse absentee voting has already begun, so you can go pick your candidates and vote right now if you want. Excuse me, the voice is going now. And Election Day is April 7th. You can find information about polling places, etc., on the website of the County Board of Elections or at our website, lwvstl.org. Thank you.